Sarah, and today I'm going to be doing my May week 1 reading vlog. So last week I kind of fell into a reading slump, so I had a pretty terrible week reading wise. I did still end up finishing 2 books, so I will link that up in the cards for you guys if you want to check it out. I decided last week to just put all of my books on pause because I tried to read several books that it just wasn't happening, and then I had some books that I really did get pretty far into that I just didn't feel like picking up anymore. I feel like I'm just like in a nostalgic mood because just so many things are changing right now. I have a lot of things changing at work. There's a lot going on, you know, pandemic wise. I just feel like there's a lot of things changing right now, and I'm just feeling very nostalgic. So what I did was I put all the books that I had been reading on pause except for my rereads. So I'm going to continue rereading like the books that I was rereading, which seems to be working for me. Like I seem to still be able to read those. Everything else that I pick up that's new though, I haven't really been able to read at all. So I'm gonna, for at least this first week of May, I'm gonna try and read nostalgic books for myself and then try to get to my May TBR starting next week. So already starting off the month, not great. But as always, I'm gonna start with the books that I'm currently reading. So if you've been following my vlogs, I am currently reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. I'm reading the illustrated edition and annotating the paperback. I haven't made progress that much last week. Like I said, I wasn't reading that much. I did make a little bit of progress at the very beginning of the week. I read maybe 4 or 5 chapters last week, which is actually pretty good because my goal for the Harry Potter books is 1 chapter a day. Even though I didn't read for a good period of time, I did still get close to that 1 chapter a day, and I am enjoying this, and this one has some really great illustrations that I'm really excited to continue on. I'm really enjoying the analysis part too. That's been one of my favorite things to do recently. And then my other reread that I have is the one that was on my May TBR, which is the Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne. Last week I read The Hunger Games and I absolutely loved it. Like, this book made me feel like I was out of my reading slump. I'm not, because I can't pick up anything else, because this is the only thing that's working for me, but I really, really enjoyed this. I got so emotional while I was reading this book, way more than I was expecting to, and of course, I ended up giving this one 5 stars again. And then I literally just finished Catching Fire a few minutes ago, and I feel like the first 2 parts, because Catching Fire is broken up into parts 1, 2, and 3. And the first 2 parts I really enjoyed. I loved the first 2 parts. Not as much as The Hunger Games, because The Hunger Games is my jam, but I really, really enjoyed the first 2 parts. The 3rd part, I felt like we were going backwards, which I felt like the first time around when I read this book, the first time around also. I got kind of annoyed in the 3rd part, and then you get to the end of the 3rd part, and I was just like, so much actually happened in the 3rd part. Katniss just wasn't aware of what was going on. So I really felt like it would have been interesting if we could have gotten Gale's point of view as well as Katniss's point of view in part 3, but unfortunately that didn't happen. It would be so cool though if we could have gotten that point of view, because I think it would have made the 3rd part a lot more interesting to me. So while I did really enjoy this, I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. And because the series is working so well for me, I decided to start Mockingjay by Suzanne. I'm hesitant with this one. I'm really hesitant because, one, I'm in a reading slump, but also because historically, I have not liked Mockingjay. On Goodreads, my rating for Mockingjay is 2 stars, which I don't remember when I gave it that reading because I don't remember the last time that I reread this series, but that doesn't bode well for me and for Mockingjay. A lot of times in the past when I've reread the Hunger Games trilogy, I've reread the first 2 and then DNF'd Mockingjay. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna like this, but I remember when I was reading Catching Fire, I started getting nostalgic feelings of some of the settings were in Mockingjay. Maybe I'll end up liking it more this time around. I mean, I know I loved the Hunger Games a lot more this time around, and I enjoyed Catching Fire a lot more this time around. So maybe I'll like Mockingjay more too. We'll see, but I did start this one as well. So that's currently all I'm reading, which is weird. I almost never start a week only reading 2 books, but that's where I am right now, and we're just gonna go with it. So it is Friday, May 8th. It is my first update since I started this vlog, so 5 days into this vlog, and I haven't updated you guys at all. I'm on night shift right now at work, so I'm just tired all the time, which I think is part of the reason why I'm not reading as much. I did, however, manage to finish Mockingjay by Suzanne, and I have to say I'm really surprised by how much I like this. Now, mind you, I didn't have very high expectations going in, and I do think that it helped that I was listening to the audiobook because I didn't have to have like my own drive to read the book. All I had to do was listen while the audiobook played, and I think what helped also was I wasn't really attached to any of the romances at all this time around. Like, I wasn't really paying attention to romance at all during this reread of the Hunger Games trilogy. And thinking of the series that way, I actually like it a lot more. I realized why at the beginning of the Hunger Games, why I was so emotional. And it's because of Katniss's relationship with her sister. It gets really emotional in this one too. I didn't actually feel the emotions as much in this one as I did in the first one in the Hunger Games, but I did enjoy that whole aspect of the story. I think it worked really, really well, and I do like the ending. The first, like, 3/4 of this book, though, I found incredibly boring, but that ending I did really like. So that's why I ended up bumping up my original rating of 2 stars up to 3.5 stars. I do think I have a better opinion of Mockingjay having reread it this time around, but it's still my least favorite book in the Hunger Games trilogy. So when I finished Mockingjay, I needed to start a new book, and I decided to go with Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. So this is one of my favorite series of all times. It's the first book in the Song of Ice and Fire series, which you guys probably know from the HBO TV show Game of Thrones. I personally don't like the TV show that much, but I love the books. Like, I love the books so much, and I'm really excited for the 6th book to come out. So I've been meaning to reread this series for a while. I didn't think I was going to reread it this early. I thought I was going to wait at least until December and start my reread of it in December during my normal reread month. But I decided to start it early because I'm just in that nostalgic feel right now, and I just want to read nostalgic books. And this is one of the most nostalgic series for me to read. I think the reason for that, it's like one of the first like adult series that I read going into college. Like, I mean, I read the Wheel of Time series before this one, but the Wheel of Time series I think is one that can be read by young adults. Like, it doesn't have any specific adult-only content, while A Song of Ice and Fire most definitely does. So I just felt like I was graduating to another level when I picked up this series. And for me, that was very nostalgic because it was one of my favorite series that I've read like since I've become an adult. And I really, really enjoy the series because it has great characters, has very complex, interesting situations, a robust world that I absolutely love. And I'm just living in that world right now. I'm still pretty close to the beginning, right there. So not super far into it, not even 200 pages yet. So I'm reading it a little bit slower than I did the Hunger Games trilogy, which is somewhat expected because A Song of Ice and Fire is a lot harder to read than the Hunger Games trilogy is. I'm also reading the physical book and the audio, so I'm switching between the two. A Song of Ice and Fire is not my favorite audiobooks. I listened to them for the first time in, I think it was 2018, back when I like got really into audiobooks. I decided to reread the series on audio, and I really didn't like it. I still finished it on audio because it's much faster if you listen to the audiobooks than reading the physical books, because this is just a slow series to read in general, and if you listen to the audiobooks, you don't have to put as much effort in, so it's faster. But I really don't like the audiobooks. I do find that I like them better now, but with most audiobooks, I read them at 1.5 speed. I found with this audiobook though, I have to read it at like 1.2 speed in order to enjoy it. If I read it any faster than that, it starts to annoy me. So I do like the audiobook more than I did before, but I have to listen to it slower. Also, I really, really wanted to do a reread with my new hardcover books that I just got, because I originally read them in mass market paperback because that's what I bought, but I have the hardcovers now and I absolutely love them, especially these covers, though I do take off the covers when I read them, especially since I read them for the most part while I'm in the bath. Like, that's the majority that I read the physical books. Yeah, I don't want the covers to get ruined. I do absolutely love these covers, and I really like having the hardcovers. Like, I didn't realize how much I like hardcovers until I picked up these. And I think it's just the nostalgia from like my childhood reading the Harry Potter books. I always had the hardcovers for those, or at least like from book 3 on when I was like super into the series. So it's just the nostalgia of like wanting to read the hardcovers, and like pretty much all of my favorite books from childhood I read in hardcover. It wasn't until I got older and started reading older books that I started reading paperback, and now like I really love mass market paperbacks. I started to get that nostalgia feeling again from reading the hardcover, even though I originally read these in paperback. Anyway, that was a super weird aside. I'm just gonna make it a 2-week vlog since I barely vlogged this week anyway, and I'll upload this next Saturday. So I apologize if you guys were really looking forward to this Saturday. But from my last vlog, you probably could tell that I wasn't gonna read that much this week anyway. But that is all I have for you guys right now. I'll check in with you guys later. So it is Wednesday, May 15th. We're halfway through the month and I have not picked up anything new. Like literally not a single book on my TBR, so that's fun. I have made progress on Game of Thrones, my reread. I'm mostly listening to the audiobook. I had planned to switch between the audiobook and the physical book, but I'm really not doing any physical reading like at all. So it's mostly just listening to the audiobook, and I've kind of slowed down on that also. So I still haven't finished it yet. I'm right there. So just a little bit left, and I've been hesitant to continue on, and I think that's because I don't want it to end. Because once it ends, then either I continue on with the series and I just resign myself that I'm not gonna get to my May TBR this month, or I can start my May TBR, which I'm not ready to do yet. So I've been hesitating on doing that. I have made a bit of progress on Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I read one chapter in the last week or so, and there were no illustrations in that chapter, so I have nothing to share with you guys. But I did add a few tabs to my Harry Potter book, so I did do a teensy bit of physical reading. It's been interesting, this first vlog. I don't know how this is gonna go over. I do think that I wanna try something, and I wanna try on reading this baby right here. I've been talking about this series for a little while now on my channel, because this series is The Underland Chronicles by Suzanne. This is the first book in the series, Gregor the Overlander, and this series has notoriously in the past been very good at getting me out of reading slumps, and I've been kind of craving it a little bit. I think it's because I recently did my Hunger Games reread, and I did that really well. Like, I got through all 3 books in a very quick manner, and like how I would typically read books, as opposed to like the really slow way that I'm reading them right now. And it's the same author, but this is my more, like, I like this series more by her than the Hunger Games. And while I do love the Hunger Games series, this one is just like one of my most adored series of all times. I love middle grade. I love middle grade way more than YA, and this is middle grade, so I've just kind of been craving it, because whenever I'm in a reading slump, I'm like, the Underland Chronicles will get me out of it. I try to get out of it without rereading the series every time, but like, it doesn't happen. And then after having just read other Suzanne Collins work, I'm just kind of like, I'm really itching to read it. So I'm gonna be going to bed kind of soon. I know, you could probably see the daylight streaming out of my window. I'm working night shift right now, so I'm used to waking up at like 1 a.m. So even though I don't have to work tomorrow, I'm tired because I worked today. So I'm gonna take a bath and take this book with me. We'll see if I read it or not, because it really depends on how I'm feeling. I'm not super tired right now, so there's a good chance that I might pick it up, but I just haven't been picking up anything recently, so maybe not. I don't know. I've kind of been craving it though, and I don't want to listen to the audiobook since I've been listening to the audiobook for A Game of Thrones anyway. I think I'm gonna try and read this one physically, like 100% physically, which I've been notoriously very bad at for the last like 3 weeks. So we'll see. See if I can do this. I'm really hoping that I will. I honestly don't remember the last book that I finished physically. Like, I don't remember what it was. I'm trying really hard to remember so that I can tell you guys, but nope, I didn't even finish that one physically. I was gonna say Shorefall by Robert Jackson Bennett. I counted that as an ebook for my reading wrap up, which I actually haven't filmed yet. I should probably do that before this vlog comes out, but I counted that as an ebook, even though like I actually finished it on audio. That's the last like real book that I count that I finished, because I'm not really counting the Hunger Games because that's a reread. I don't really count rereads when it comes to reading slumps. Like, I feel like rereads don't really count in reading slumps. It's like when you start reading regular books again, then you're no longer in a reading slump. Anyways, I'm just gonna stop right there because... So it is Friday, May 15th. Actually May 15th now. I think I mentioned May 15th in the last like update. It was actually May 13th. Now it is May 15th. And I did finish A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. This is one of my favorite series of all time. So of course I really enjoyed it and I ended up giving it 5 stars. There's so much set up in this book that I have to continue on with the series. Like, I can't just leave off after the first book in the series. So I did decide to continue on with A Clash of Kings. I'm not super far into it yet, but I remember why I love this book so much, and it's because the politics are so good in this one. Like, Tyrion is a rock star politician in this book, and I'm loving this so far. Like, the politics in this book, I think, are even better than a Game of Thrones. So I'm really excited for that. Like, really excited for that. I'm enjoying this. I'm really loving this. And I feel like this is also when Daenerys kind of gets into her stride a little bit better. And there's just so many good things going on with some of my favorite characters that I'm excited to see. I am listening to the audiobook for these because I'm really not reading a whole lot of books physically. I did, however, start Gregor the Overlander. Like I mentioned, this is the first book in the Underland Chronicles, which is one of my favorite series of all time. And it's one that notoriously gets me out of reading slumps often, which I think it is doing because I've actually made a lot more progress on A Song of Ice and Fire since I started this one. I started it and I finished this book yesterday, and I don't know how Suzanne Collins does this because, mind you, this is the same author who wrote The Hunger Games, but this is her previous series. This is a middle grade series. I was just so emotional while I was reading this book. Not as much as I was when I was rereading The Hunger Games, but like, I think it's because I'm just so nostalgic right now for like good times. I think it's the sibling relationships. For some reason, I think Suzanne Collins must have a little sister or something because she has these older siblings just sacrificing so much for their little sisters, and I can't get over it. Like, maybe it's because I'm a little sister myself and I just think about like, would my brother do that for me? I don't know. Maybe he would, maybe he won't. Also, I think Gregor as a character learned and grew so much just in this first book, and I didn't expect to be as into this book as I was, even though like I consider this like my like holy grail of getting out of reading slumps. I didn't expect to be as into this book as I actually was because I remember the first book in the series is my least favorite book in the series. It's not that I don't like this book. I love this book. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and I give it 5 stars pretty much every time I reread it, but I just think that every subsequent book in the series gets better and better. So I didn't expect to love this one as much, but I loved it so much, and I'm really excited to continue on with the series. Like, I totally understand why it gets me out of reading slumps because it's so fast-paced, so easy to read, and with such lovable characters that have such good character growth throughout the entire thing. I absolutely love it. And there's so many other characters as well, and none of them are like purely good people. Like, they're all in some way a great character, and I really love that aspect of it, and I'm really excited to continue on with this series. I haven't started the next book yet, but this series, like, each book is pretty short, so I'm pretty sure that like once I do start the next book, I'll probably finish it really quickly. And lastly, I did say I have a lot to update you guys on. I continued on with Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and I read 2 more chapters. The last chapter I read was The Unforgivable Curses, which I have to say has got to be one of the best chapters in the entire Harry Potter series. I absolutely love that chapter. There's just so much subtext going on in that chapter, especially when it comes to characterization, both for Harry and for Neville Longbottom, as well as a few other characters like Moody / I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but like there's just so much going on there, and yet it's still cut with like humor of Ron being scared of spiders and things like that, and I just loved it. I loved every second of that chapter, and I don't know if it's because I'm just in a nostalgic mood right now. Obviously, I really enjoy the Harry Potter series, and I also have some illustrations to share for you guys. Okay, so we left off on chapter 13, Mad-Eye Moody. So the first thing we have is a blast-ended Skrewt, which is the magical creature that Hagrid has for them in their 4th year. Pretty much everyone hates. Over here, we got a picture of Moody over here, and the white ferret because he transfigures Malfoy into a ferret as punishment, which was just one of the best scenes ever. I love the scene in the movie too, by the way, not just in the book, though I think the book scene is a little bit better than the movie one for that one. And then we got chapter 14, The Unforgivable Curses. Down in the corner, you got a little spider, and this is the one that is being tortured. And then we have Moody reaching his hand into the jar very ominously for the 3rd spider. In the corner down here, we have Hermione's SPEW buttons, and that's all. I do have to say, there seems to be a lot fewer illustrations in this book than in the previous books, but that's kind of to be expected because this book has significantly more words, even though it's not that much thicker than the other illustrated editions. Okay, so it's Saturday, May 16th, and I finished Gregor and the Prophecy of Bane by Suzanne Collins. And this one, unlike the first one, where like the ending gave me a lot of closure, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue on with the series, the ending of this one doesn't give a whole lot of closure. Like, there are a lot of loose threads at the ending. So I immediately picked up book 3, Gregor and the Curse of the Warmbloods, and I've been pretty deep into this book. I'm almost done with it, so I'm probably gonna be finishing this one later today. Series, like, for some reason, every time I start it, I cannot stop reading it, and I absolutely love it. It has some of the most lovable characters and morally great characters, and some of the most emotional character scenes that I've read in a while, and it has complicated politics in an immersive world, and it's just all set in this fast-paced adventure story that I just absolutely love, and I'm really excited to continue on with the series. I ended up giving Gregor and the Prophecy of Bane 5 stars, and I'm almost done with Curse of the Warmbloods. That's gonna be 5 stars also because I love this series, so obviously I'm gonna love that as well. That's really the only update that I have for you guys. That is a significant amount of reading though, so I feel pretty happy with that. I am still currently reading A Clash of Kings. I've read like the first, I wanna say like 10 chapters or so. I'm pretty significantly into it, so I'm enjoying this as well, but since yesterday I haven't made a whole lot of progress on it, mostly because I've been focusing so much on the Underland Chronicles, and of course I'm still currently reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which I'm enjoying. This one's a lot slower though, not because I don't like it as much. It's actually probably my favorite of these series, but it's because I'm also annotating it. I haven't made any progress since I last talked to you guys about this one though. And since it's the end of the week, I'm just gonna do a quick summary of what I've read these last 2 weeks, because this vlog was 2 weeks long. And I ended up finishing 6 books in the last 2 weeks, which sounds like a lot. That being said, I do average about 4 to 5 books a week normally, so 6 books in 2 weeks is not that impressive when you consider my normal amount of reading, and also considering they're all rereads of books that I know that I love. It's not super impressive either, but we'll go through them really quickly. So first, I read the Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins, which includes The Hunger Games, which I gave 5 stars, Catching Fire, which I gave 4.5 stars, and Mockingjay, which I ended up giving 3.5 stars. I also finished the first 2 books in the Underland Chronicles, which is Gregor the Overlander, which I gave 5 stars, and Gregor and the Prophecy of Bane, which I also gave 5 stars. And I finished my reread of A Game of Thrones by George R. R. Martin, which I also gave 5 stars. Because like I said, all of these books were books that I knew I was gonna end up loving. I do feel like I'm kind of starting to get out of that reading slump, especially the last couple of days. I got a lot more reading done than I expected. So I don't know, I might decide to start picking up some new stuff very soon. I don't know what yet. I think we're coming up very close to the release date for Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, so I think I might either pick that one up as my first like new book since I like started getting out of this reading slump, but we'll see. I'll definitely finish the Underland Chronicles first since I continued on with the Song of Ice and Fire. I want to probably at least get through A Storm of Swords because I can't read A Clash of Kings without reading A Storm of Swords because that one's my favorite one. That's my plan right now. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this vlog, even though it was kind of a weird one. I post videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, so consider subscribing. I also post bonus videos, so if you want to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!